She held a knife in her hand, but love in her eyes. And for a moment he truly believed this might be the last breath he'd ever take. The moonlit forest was silent, except for the sound of his own trembling heartbeat. She had chased him for miles. Yet now that she finally stood before him, she wasn't looking at him like prey. She was looking at him like someone she'd been waiting for her whole life. Before we continue this powerful story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Kind Heart Stories, where every story reminds us that kindness still matters. Her name was Lyra, a wild, quiet, fiercely protective woman from a mountain tribe few outsiders ever survived meeting. And he was just Mason, a traveler, a hiker, a man who took the wrong trail at the wrong hour. He didn't mean to step into her territory. He didn't mean to be caught, and yet, here he was, cornered, breathless, waiting. Lyra lifted the knife higher, but her voice was soft, almost trembling. "You didn't run to escape," she said. "You ran to protect the wounded fox in your arms." Mason blinked. He had forgotten about the struggling little creature pressed against his chest. He'd found it caught in a trap, crying in pain. He freed it and ran, not knowing whose territory he was in, only knowing he couldn't leave it there. Lyra slowly placed her hand on the fox, her fierce expression melting. "No outsider protects what is not his," she whispered. "No outsider stops to save a life that isn't human." Then she took a step closer, so close he could feel her breath. "Not unless he has a true heart." Mason didn't know what to say. His knees felt weak. His chest felt tight. All he could manage was, "I just didn't want it to suffer." A strange emotional smile touched her lips, the kind of smile someone gives when they've finally found something they stopped believing existed. She lowered the knife, slid it back into the sheath at her waist, and touched the fox with both hands. Her palms glowed faintly, warm, golden. Mason gasped as the small creature stopped trembling and curled peacefully into her arms. "She's safe now," Lyra said. Then she looked at him with a depth that made his breath catch. "And so are you." Mason expected her to vanish into the shadows, or to escort him out, or maybe warn him never to return. Instead, she said something that made the world tilt under his feet. "Be my mate." He thought he misheard. "What?" "You protected what is weak. You showed mercy where others would not. Our people choose partners not by blood but by heart. And yours?" She placed his hand over his own chest. "Beats with a purity I've only dreamed of." He stood silent, overwhelmed, terrified, but also strangely honored. She wasn't asking as a threat. She wasn't demanding. Her eyes weren't wild or desperate. They were gentle, hopeful, vulnerable. The twist came not from danger, but from truth. "I can't decide something like that so fast," he said, shaking. "I'm just a man who tried to save a fox." "Exactly," she replied. "You chose kindness when no one was watching." She turned then, carrying the fox toward the trees. Mason thought she was leaving him forever, and his heart unexpectedly sank. But after a few steps she paused, glanced back, and said, "Come back tomorrow. Decide then. If you choose no, I will still protect you." That night Mason barely slept. He replayed the entire encounter. The knife, the fear, the fox, her glowing hands, her unexpected tenderness. He had never met anyone like her, never felt so deeply seen. At dawn he returned. Lyra stood waiting without the knife this time. Just a quiet smile and the healed fox sitting by her feet. He looked into her eyes, and something inside him settled with a peace he'd never known. "I don't know what the future holds," Mason said softly, "but I want to try." The smile she gave him then was brighter than sunrise. She reached for his hand, gently, reverently, and he realized this wasn't about romance or fate or tradition. It was about two people choosing kindness in a world that often forgets it. Together they walked deeper into the forest, not as prey and hunter, not as outsider and tribeswoman, but as two hearts that had found each other in the most unexpected way. And sometimes, that's how real change begins, not with grand gestures or perfect moments, but with a simple act of compassion that proves love still has a place in this world.